The house was unusually quiet that afternoon. The sunlight streamed through the windows in soft beams, casting a golden glow on the wooden floor of the living room. For the first time in a long while, I had the house to myself. My sister, Emily, was out with friends, and our parents were gone for the weekend, leaving me in a rare state of freedom. It wasn't often that I had this much space to myself, and a thrill of excitement pulsed through me as I stood in the hallway, heart pounding, knowing exactly what I was about to do. It wasn't the first time I had ventured into my sister's room, but this time felt different. It was going to be more than just a quick peek or a touch of her things. No, this time I was ready for something more adventurous, something bold, something that had been simmering in the back of my mind for years. I wanted to know what it felt like to truly embrace a different side of myself, a side I had kept hidden for so long, even from myself. Emily's room was like stepping into another world, a soft, feminine world filled with delicate scents and colorful clothes. Her closet was a treasure trove, packed with dresses, skirts, blouses, and shoes. Her makeup station was lined with little bottles and tubes of lipsticks and foundations, most of which I didn't even know how to use. But today, none of that mattered. Today, I was going to step into her shoes, literally. I tiptoed across the room and opened her closet door slowly, as if expecting the clothes to come alive at my touch. The sight of all the dresses hanging neatly in a row, their fabrics swaying slightly in the breeze from the open window, made my heart race faster. There was a particular dress that caught my eye, Emily's favorite summer dress. It was white, with tiny blue flowers, sleeveless with a flared skirt that looked like it could spin and twirl endlessly. The thought of slipping into that dress sent a shiver of excitement down my spine. Without another thought, I reached out and pulled it off the hanger. It was so light in my hands, the fabric soft and smooth. I couldn't believe how beautiful it was up close. The dress seemed to beckon me, calling me to try it on, to transform into something or someone new. My hands trembled as I took off my regular clothes and stood in front of the full-length mirror in Emily's room. I had tried on some of her clothes before, but always in secret, always hurried, with a sense of shame creeping in before I could fully enjoy the moment. But today, there was no rush, no need to sneak. Today was different. I pulled the dress over my head, feeling the fabric brush against my skin. It fit almost perfectly. As the soft material settled around me, I turned to the mirror, and the reflection staring back at me wasn't the person I was used to seeing. There was something different about the way I looked, something softer, more graceful. My body felt lighter, as though the dress had the power to lift me out of my own skin and into someone else's. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just wearing the dress, I was becoming the dress. I ran my hands over the fabric, smoothing it down over my waist, feeling the way it flared out as it reached my thighs. I spun around, watching the skirt lift and twirl with me. The feeling was exhilarating. It was like I was seeing myself for the first time, a different version of myself, one that had been hiding in the shadows for too long. I wasn't content with just the dress, though. Now that I had started, I couldn't stop. My eyes darted toward Emily's makeup station. I knew it would be tricky. After all, I had never really tried makeup before, but there was no turning back now. I walked over, my bare feet patting softly on the carpet, and picked up a lipstick. It was a shade of pink I had seen Emily wear countless times. I twisted the tube and applied it to my lips, carefully, trying to mimic the way I had seen her do it. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't matter. With each stroke of lipstick, each sweep of eyeshadow, I felt myself slipping further into the persona I was creating. A persona that was freer, more confident, more me than I had ever dared to be before. By the time I finished, I barely recognized the person in the mirror. But instead of fear or discomfort, I felt a surge of pride and excitement. I didn't just want to see this version of myself in the mirror. I wanted to feel it out in the world. The thought terrified me at first, but the more I looked at myself, the more I realized that I couldn't stay hidden in Emily's room forever. I had to step out, even if just for a short while. I had to know what it felt like to be seen. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked down the hallway toward the front door. The dress swished around my legs with each step, a constant reminder of the transformation I had undergone. I hesitated at the door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The world outside felt so much bigger, more intimidating, but the urge to step out in my sister's dress was stronger than my fear. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door and stepped outside. The afternoon sun was warm against my skin, and the air was fresh and alive. I could hear the faint sounds of children playing down the street and a lawnmower buzzing in the distance. It was a normal day, but for me, it felt anything but normal. It felt like an adventure, one that I wasn't sure I was ready for, but one I knew I had to take. I started walking down the driveway, my steps slow and tentative at first. Every step felt like a giant leap. My heart raced, my mind swirling with a mix of excitement and anxiety. What if someone saw me? What if they recognized me? But as I reached the end of the driveway and turned onto the sidewalk, something surprising happened. No one noticed me. The world kept turning, people kept walking by, cars drove past, and no one gave me a second glance. It was as if the dress had given me a cloak of invisibility, or maybe it had made me visible in a way that didn't draw the attention I feared. The realization sent a wave of relief and exhilaration through me. I wasn't just a boy wearing his sister's clothes. I was someone new, someone confident, someone who could walk down the street in a dress and feel good about it. I kept walking, each step more confident than the last. The skirt of the dress swished around my legs, the makeup on my face made me feel glamorous, and the breeze tugged gently at my hair. For the first time in my life, I felt completely free. As I reached the park at the end of the street, I found a bench under a tree and sat down. The world around me was peaceful, birds chirping in the distance, the sun filtering through the leaves above. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, letting the moment sink in. I had done it. I had stepped out into the world as someone I had always wanted to be, and the world hadn't crumbled. In fact, it felt like it had opened up, offering me a new way to see myself. Sitting there on that bench, I realized something important. This wasn't just about wearing a dress. It was about embracing a part of myself that I had been too scared to face for so long. It was about allowing myself the freedom to explore who I really was, without fear or shame. And while this was just the beginning, just a small step in what I knew would be a much longer journey, it was a step that I would never forget. As the sun began to set and the shadows grew longer, I stood up and started walking back home. My adventure wasn't over. It was just beginning. And as I walked, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that the person I had always been was finally starting to emerge. Back in my sister's room, I carefully took off the dress and wiped off the makeup, putting everything back exactly where I had found it. But as I stood there in my own clothes again, looking at myself in the mirror, I knew that something had changed. I wasn't just the same person who had walked into Emily's room earlier that day. I was someone new, someone stronger, more confident, and ready for whatever adventures lay ahead. And as I left her room, closing the door quietly behind me, I knew that this wouldn't be the last time I explored my sister's wardrobe. It was just the beginning of a much bigger adventure, one that I couldn't wait to continue. That night, as I lay in bed, the memories of my adventure filled my mind, keeping me awake. Every detail was vivid. The feeling of the soft fabric of the dress, the rush of stepping outside, the breeze on my skin. I kept replaying those moments over and over, wondering what it all meant. It wasn't just a fleeting experience. It had awakened something deeper inside me, a desire to explore this side of myself further. The following days passed in a blur, but the memory of that afternoon lingered in the back of my mind like a secret I was desperate to revisit. My routine had returned to normal: school, homework, hanging out with friends, but I couldn't shake the thought of that dress, that freedom, and that feeling of self-expression. I knew it wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was a part of me that I could no longer deny. Then came the perfect opportunity, another day when I had the house to myself. My sister and parents were both out, and I had the entire afternoon to indulge in my newfound hobby. My heart fluttered with excitement as I headed toward Emily's room again, this time more confident, knowing exactly what I was looking for. But as I opened the closet and surveyed the rows of dresses and skirts, I paused. I had already worn the white floral dress, and as much as I loved it, today I wanted to try something different. My eyes roamed the closet until they landed on something bold, a bright red dress that clung tightly to the hanger, its fabric glistening slightly in the light. It was daring, far more daring than anything I had ever considered wearing. But there was something about it that drew me in. I took it off the hanger and held it up in front of me. The material was smooth and silky, and it had a deep neckline that was both elegant and provocative. I bit my lip, wondering if I was really ready for this, but something inside me whispered that I had to try. Today wasn't just about exploring. Today was about pushing boundaries. I slipped into the dress, feeling the fabric hug my body in a way that was both thrilling and intimidating. The fit was perfect, almost as if it had been made for me. I looked at myself in the mirror and marveled at the transformation. The person staring back at me was no longer just experimenting. This was someone confident, someone who knew what they wanted. To complete the look, I added a pair of Emily's high heels, something I hadn't dared try last time. They were black, with thin straps that wrapped around my ankles, and I wobbled a little as I stood up in them, adjusting to the new height. It was a strange sensation at first, but after a few tentative steps, I found my balance. I felt taller, more elegant, like a runway model. My reflection in the mirror was almost unrecognizable, but in the best possible way. I felt powerful, glamorous, and most importantly, completely myself. It was like stepping into a character, but one that felt closer to my true self than the person I usually presented to the world. The adrenaline from my reflection alone wasn't enough, though. The memory of stepping outside still lingered in my mind. Could I do it again? Could I go out in public wearing something even bolder than before? The thought made my heart race with both excitement and nerves, but deep down, I knew I had to do it. I couldn't stay hidden forever. As I approached the front door again, a rush of uncertainty hit me. This time felt riskier. The red dress was striking, impossible to miss. What if someone noticed? What if someone recognized me? I hesitated, my hand resting on the doorknob, but then I took a deep breath and reminded myself that this wasn't just about wearing clothes. It was about being true to myself, no matter how scary that might be. I opened the door and stepped outside, the sunlight immediately hitting my skin and the wind playing with the hem of my dress. My heart raced as I started walking down the driveway again, the click of the high heels on the pavement a constant reminder that I was stepping further and further into this new reality. With each step, my confidence grew. I wasn't just pretending anymore, I was living it. I wandered through the neighborhood, the thrill of the adventure coursing through my veins. Just like last time, no one gave me a second glance. The world moved on around me, people were busy with their own lives, and I realized that the fear of being judged was more in my head than in reality. The idea that I could walk down the street in a bold red dress, makeup, and heels without anyone paying attention gave me a sense of empowerment that I had never felt before. But I didn't stop at the park this time. I was ready for something more. The local coffee shop wasn't too far, and as I walked toward it, I felt a surge of excitement and nerves. This wasn't just a quiet stroll through the neighborhood. I was about to enter a public space, interact with people. The thought made me both terrified and exhilarated, but I knew I had to do it. I had come this far. As I stepped inside the coffee shop, the bell above the door jingled, and for a brief moment, I felt every eye turn toward me. My heart pounded in my chest, but I kept walking, my heels clicking on the tile floor. The room was filled with the usual sounds of a busy cafe, people chatting, coffee machines whirring, the faint clatter of cups. No one seemed to care about the red dress, the heels, or the makeup. I was just another customer. I walked up to the counter, trying to calm my racing heart, and ordered a simple iced coffee. The barista smiled at me, asked for my name, and handed me my cup without a second thought. It was the most ordinary interaction, but it felt like a victory, a small, powerful victory. I found a seat by the window, sipped my coffee, and watched the world go by. I had done it. I had stepped out into the world, fully dressed, fully myself, and the world hadn't collapsed. In fact, it had opened up in a way I hadn't expected. I felt free, like I could do anything. Sitting there, watching the sun dip lower in the sky, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was just the beginning of my journey, but it was a beginning that I would never forget. I had embraced a part of myself that I'd been too afraid to acknowledge for so long, and in doing so, I had found a strength I didn't know I had. As the evening wore on, I finished my coffee and started the walk back home. The heels still clicked confidently on the pavement. The breeze still played with the hem of my dress, and I knew that this wasn't just an adventure. It was a part of who I was. I had discovered something beautiful about myself, and there was no going back. When I arrived home, I slipped out of the red dress, careful to put everything back exactly where it belonged. But as I looked at myself in the mirror, wearing my regular clothes once more, I didn't feel like I was hiding anymore. I knew who I was now, and that knowledge filled me with a quiet sense of joy and satisfaction. Over the next few weeks, I found more opportunities to explore this side of myself. Each time, I felt more confident, more comfortable in my own skin. I started experimenting with different outfits, different makeup looks, and even trying new hairstyles. I wasn't just cross-dressing anymore. I was learning how to embrace my femininity in a way that felt right for me. One evening, Emily came home early from her outing. I was in her room, trying on a soft pink dress, when I heard the door creak open. My heart stopped, panic flooding my system. But instead of yelling or being angry, Emily just stood there, staring at me with wide eyes. For a moment, we both just stood in silence, the air thick with tension. I could feel the blush rising in my cheeks, my mind racing with a million excuses. But before I could say anything, Emily spoke. "You look good," she said softly, her voice calm, not judgmental. I blinked, unsure if I had heard her correctly.
"What?"
"I mean, you look good in that dress," she repeated, stepping into the room. "Is this why my clothes have been moving around lately?" I nodded, shame creeping up inside me. But to my surprise, Emily didn't seem upset. Instead, she smiled, a small, genuine smile. "If you wanted to try them on, you could have just asked," she said, her tone light. "But maybe next time, we can pick something out together." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My sister wasn't mad. She was offering to help me. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "You're okay with this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why wouldn't I be?" she replied, walking over to the closet and rummaging through the hangers. "Honestly, you look better in some of these dresses than I do. Here, try this one." She handed me a long, flowing gown, and for the first time, I felt like I didn't have to hide. We spent the rest of the evening talking, laughing, and trying on different outfits. Emily didn't judge me, didn't make me feel weird or ashamed. She accepted me for who I was, and that acceptance was everything. From that day on, my life changed. I didn't feel the need to sneak around anymore. Emily became my confidant, my guide in the world of fashion and femininity. We bonded in a way that we never had before, and I finally felt like I had found a place where I could truly be myself. And as for that red dress, it became a symbol of my freedom, my confidence, and my journey to self-acceptance. Every time I wore it, I was reminded of that first bold step I took into the world, and how it had led me to a life I never thought possible. Thank you so much for watching till now. It means the world to have you here. This community is all about empowering each other and celebrating the incredible journeys of everyone on their path to living authentically. If you're ever feeling lost or alone, remember you have a whole family here for you. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and let's keep inspiring each other, sending you all the love and strength in the world. Until next time, live your life by your rules.